Most people think a sales page is made to bring people in. For me, it's to get all the wrong people to go away. That's what I built the sales page and everything for. Because I don't want to be on a call finding out someone's got, an idea and all this stuff and no audience. I'm like, well, you just wasted 30 minutes of my time, even if I hang up now.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We're here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name is John Ainsworth, and today's guest is Tom Libelt. He's the host of the Smart Brand Marketing Show, and in the past, he's published about 5,000 Kindle books, built a successful SEO business, owned a coffee shop, a retail store, a record label, created a documentary, and released 2 albums with 5 hits on top 10 Polish radio. He likes to say that if you can't sell, then you're not in business. Marketing and sales are the backbone of a company. And Tom also helps course creators, but he takes a very different approach to what we do here at Data Driven Marketing. So today we're going to talk through the approach that he takes and how you can learn from it and how you might be able to use that to be able to either start or scale your course business. Now, before we dive into our interview with today's guest, I've got something important to share with you. Do you want me to walk you through 8 steps that can add tens of thousands of dollars to your course sales every month? If you do, go to datadrivenmarketing.co/webinar. You're going to be able to watch the recording of a presentation I gave to a group of fellow course creators. And in the presentation, I'll reveal the exact techniques we've used to 2 to 5 times our students' revenue. For example, you'll discover the number one thing you need to do if you want to see your course sales increase. Adopt this habit and your sales numbers are likely to jump 50% or more in 1 month and stay there month after month. You'll also learn the easiest way to get twice as many premium level course buyers as you have now. I've had people come up to me at conferences who watched the presentation and have made tens of thousands of dollars just from implementing one of the techniques I shared. So if you want to see all 8 techniques, go to datadrivenmarketing.co/webinar and sign up to watch the presentation. It's free. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope it makes you loads of money. Now, Tom, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, I'm going to go see this webinar.
Yeah. I think you might have seen me do it live at a conference.
I think so, yeah. It was just, I was listening to it. I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let me type that
in. So we kind of have compared notes every year or two whenever we catch up with each other in the conference in Bangkok. And the angle that you take when you're helping course creators is pretty kind of different, like the opposite way round from the way that we do it. And in particular, it's something that can work for someone who they've got an expertise, but they maybe don't even have courses yet. So let's take people through the whole kind of process. If someone's starting out, they haven't got a course, but they've got this expertise, what's step 1 from your point of view?
Well, step 1 is we need to find entry points for the funnel, right? We need to find entry points. So, there are a couple different levers you can press in the beginning, right? Like, we can find and improve audiences. We can find ways and improve ways of getting their attention. And then we can find messaging and improve messaging of getting them to take the next action you want them to take, right? And for people who are starting out, especially, I mean, this works in different ways above all the buckets, but especially for those, typically they don't know what message is going to resonate. Because if you're selling an idea, we can start from 10 to 100 different ways of phrasing, how we're going to help. You know what I mean? Like it's not just on copy and hooks, but just the way we're going to approach it.
Yeah.
Like if you are helping people with insomnia, are we taking the medication route, the anti-medication route, the therapy route, the coaching, natural therapy? Like there's so many different ways before we even get into the messaging, right? So instead of building things out, which is what typically happens, right? Hey, should we build out these big funnels and sales pages? I was like, maybe not. How about we find out if people want this? And based on the messaging that works, our entry points into the funnel, we can very quickly then build out the funnel because we know these messages resonate. You're getting audiences, they're interested. You're probably selling because we'll throw up like an MVP, bare bones, sales page, whatever. We'll make, things happen. But instead of investing money in that, let's figure out what drives people, right? So this works really, really well with people who are established. And this is a big problem lately. They're selling live on YouTube or other channels, right? Like they do a live stream. When they do a live stream, they sell. When they don't, nothing happens. but they come up with new topics all the time, right? So then when it comes to an evergreen, well, which one do we double down on? Because nobody knows. They have no clue. No one's tracking anything. So it's same with those people, right? We're like, well, let's come up with the ideas based on what you've done before, look at entry points, and then build a webinar around that messaging, right? Because if I can find 3 very good entry points, right? So like these 3 messages drive people like crazy into whatever, opt-ins, whatever it is, right? We can use that to be the main driver of the webinar. We can use those 3 messages. We can then repurpose that and everything works. Like we don't guess, everything's based on the market. So we're anti the guessing game, I guess. And we've just done it for so long. And don't get me wrong, we're pretty good guessers. We are pretty good guessers, but I find it to be the safer route.
What does that look like? How, when you so you've come up with your, you've looked at what things they've currently got that might be a good message. How do you then test it? What's the next step?
Well, it really depends on the client and the approach, right? Like if we're selling a small, like entry-level product, which is like, $47, whatever, with upsells and order bumps, all that stuff, well, we go straight to the cold sales page, right? And we can do chatbots and different things and heat maps and figure out what's working, what's not pretty quickly. If it's something bigger, well, then, it depends what they want to do, right? Do we want to test as much of the email campaign as we can while we're getting that going and drive people to the sales page? And then when we have things tuned in, we kind of convert it to what we wanted in the first place. It could be a workshop, webinar, that's something we discuss with the client. I'll tell them my view, my approach, but there are variables. Like, what are you more interested in? Do you want to get as much data now, and then we flip the switch and go like crazy? Or do you want to try making some sales in whatever way, and then we're going to have to move things around because that's not what you want to do in the end, right? Like, you don't want to use this model. There's always nuance. This. When clients come to you, there's always like an it depends moment. We can, even when you have like 3 routes that you think are great, it's still it depends, right? Like, which of these 3 are we going to go with? Like you can't test 10 variables at the same time, or your data's faulty that you get back, right? You got to always start like, which lever are we testing first? Which do you think is going to have the most benefit? And for a person with no audience, well, the main lever is how do we get audience that connects with you? Like that's the main thing, right? Because you don't have enough traffic where we can start like, oh, is 2 order bumps going to be better than 1? Hey, do you want to have enough? Like those are down the funnel levers, which just don't apply to this person. So often when they come to us, I'm like, you're taking advice from someone that's 10 steps ahead of you. And how in the world are you going to test the lever of an order bump if you don't have any traffic coming in? Like, do you realize like what, So since you asked about beginners, the main lever is always like, how do we get the right people in your funnel? And that's a big thing too, the right people, not people who just want to opt in. How do we get the right people? Because I can go into India, set up some really cheap ads, and I'm going to get people into your opt-ins like crazy. But those are not the right people necessarily. So a huge problem that I see too is with Udemy sellers who try to go off and do their own thing. Because they're like, hey, I got this awesome course. It sells for $9. Whoop-de-hoo, right? And then like, I want to sell the same thing for $497, but my audience is from India. I'm like, bro, your audience on Udemy is in India. Your audience that will pay $497 is not in India. So you can't use the same thing, right? You can't use the same offer because I've seen people get called out on it. I've seen people on webinars that attracted some of the Udemy audience trying to sell to different people, being like, hey, this shit is sold on Udemy for $9.99. What are you doing, bro? Because they will. So there are a lot of challenges with, even if you do have an audience that you think you do, but then when you try to move away from it, that's not the audience we got to attract, right? So that's the main lever. Like if we need to get people in the US, and I don't believe in demographics as much, more of like a behaviors, and then, there's different things I look for. We got to get those people to connect with you, not just anybody, because anybody is easy. You know what I mean? Like we did this experiment on Twitter, right? Where we grew from 300 to 35,000 followers in just a couple months, right? In the beginning, it was a volumes game. It's easy, super easy. Anyone can do it. But very quickly we went like, okay, we have enough followers now where everyone's taking us kind of seriously. Now we got to get to the right people. Much more difficult. You know what I mean? Like then you're starting to like exchange all the dimwits for like people that can think. And you want to just, that's the harder thing. So with beginners, we want to skip that as much as possible when they're selling courses. Let's not get people who don't have anything interesting to tell you as feedback in your funnel, because it's not going to help. If you
how
do,
does someone tell? Someone's got this idea, right? They're like, okay, I need to get the right people. It's not the people in India. It's not my previous people off of Udemy. I know I'm looking at, let's say, the States. It's not demographics, it's behavior. Like, how do they go about, first of all, trying to find those right people and then telling whether they got the right people in?
Two different ways, right? Like one, it's based on behavior. And that's all depending on the outcome of the course. That's the only time where I actually ask people like, okay, where am I before I take this course and where am I after? Because the whole thing is like, what is that behavior that I'm trying to fix or overcome or solve?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to use that to drive people in. Now, there are a lot of ways to exclude people, on AdWords, on Facebook, a lot. We use exclusions more than our actual targeting. Like exclusions are everything, right? Like we might have 10 keywords in AdWords and 80 or 100 negative keywords, which we just don't want. Same thing with Facebook. We'll have like a nice audience, but then we'll have a huge exclusion, like don't want these people. And Facebook makes it more difficult. Now you can be like, hey, broke people go away. Like there's different ways you got to do it. But the first thing you'll know that you have the wrong people in the funnel is like, you write an email at the end of your sequence. What did I do wrong? And everything is like price, 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 price.
Mm-hmm.
You very quickly know, like, this is the wrong audience.
Yeah.
Because they're all looking for a Udemy solution pricing. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you quickly, usually it's pricing. And I've seen it, like people that came to us from other marketing companies, they're like, yeah, we got all these people. I would survey them really quickly and it's all price. And they're like, oh, I was like, where'd you find these? And then, we look at their targeting and I'm like, yeah, you just did the, the India 300 to 20,000 followers in 10 days play,
Yeah. Got it. All right, cool. So someone can go through, if they've got some previous messaging that seems to have worked for attracting their audience, they can start there, like 1, 2, 3 different messages they had, put that together into either something that's driving people into this current funnel from their organic audience, or if they don't have that, then look at ads and try and figure out, right, where's the people who might be buyers? Look for people who are actually have got this problem that you're trying to solve, and then try and use negative keywords to exclude broke people. Is that right?
Well, just people, no, it's not even just the broke people. It's like, it depends on the platform, right? Like with AdWords, you exclude keywords because AdWords will do everything in their power to show non-relevant things. So it's just not wasting money. Facebook is more of like the broke people part, but AdWords, which is usually better because these are, intentional keywords, like I'm searching for something. It's just to fight against Google, because Google will do everything in their power to use your little keyword and, if possible, stick it in places where they just, like similar things, which are not really similar. Like the buying intent is so different, or the search intent, you're just losing money. Right. So just as an example, like, we spoke about like the insomnia thing before. Well, if someone's looking, what is insomnia? And Google thinks that's a relevant thing to you. Well, no, what is needs to be a negative, because we're not giving information to people who are looking for what is anything. We're looking for buyers. Mm-hmm. Right. So we're fighting Google. We're not fighting against broke people. We're fighting from Google taking our money. So it's a bit of a different thing, right? So every platform's got its, ins and outs, but that's the big one with Google. Like you're fighting them more than anything.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So we're trying to fight against that. So we could start off with looking at what keywords can we think of to exclude. And then after a while, once the campaign starts running, you can see what keywords it's showing against, right? And then you can go, no, and start to exclude that way. Have you got any other techniques for like how to figure out what you might want to exclude in the first place?
I mean, if you're selling, courses, and anything free near me, locally, in US, in UK, in Canada, because people will search locally, right? Like you want to exclude all of that.
Right.
because they're not looking for a live thing, well, they're not going to buy from you.
Yeah.
Unless you're running a specific sales page, landing page, and ads to show yourself as a better alternative to the live whatever. But that's a different campaign, right? That's not a typical first,
No.
let's try things out, right? So everything is, you got to look at the sales paths. That's why when people never sold before, it's difficult because you've never taken enough people through a sales process to understand that, like, sending in New York in a leather jacket, swinging it open and showing people watches is not a good idea, because that's what most people do. Like, hey, you want to buy this? I'm like, bro, I'm going to eat some food. This is the middle of the street. I don't want to watch. It's a fake watch anyways. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they always, those people, and I've seen enough of this. That's why I laugh, because most of the messaging I see online is the same. Like, they'll always try to connect with you in a weird way, right? Like the guy with the leather,
Yeah.
suit will be like, hey man, like, where are you from? Poland? Great. I was there before, and all that stuff like that. And the end, it's like, you want to buy a watch? And that's what a lot of people do online. It's like, hey, how are you? I see you're running a company and you're doing this stuff and that. This is awesome. You want to buy this course? And everyone's like, what? That is not a good sales path.
So what did what did you just say? You said that's why you left. What do you mean? You mean like you don't go on Facebook anymore, or what do you mean?
Well, I mean, I stopped even looking or responding to any of these DMs, right? Because they're all so bad. They're all so bad. Like, everyone's just, like, you leave that sales conversation immediately. Or if I'm in a good mood, I'll troll the hell out of them. Which I just don't have the time much. But when I do, I will run this as far as I can. But anyways, it's not going to help you sell. Like, that's not how you sell courses. But I see too much of it.
Yeah. What's an example of the guy with the leather jacket in the course world then? Is it, so you've mentioned one in terms of like, DMing or what have you. In the ad space, is it about them pointing somebody straight to a sales page for something expensive? Because something cheap, you can point through to something.
No. Let me give you just a very simple example, right? Like, and I know that memes get attention, right? You put a good meme, you're going to get a hell of attention if you do it, if it's funny enough. But it's difficult to move that attention to someone to have them buy something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I see a lot of course creators and then these whatever marketing wannabe freelancers. They know that big accounts throw memes, get them attention, they make sales, and they think that that's how it works. So they'll start putting memes out, a lot of engagement, but no one's buying anything. You don't go from like, hey, this is funny and not relevant to buy my course. That's just the same exact thing, right? It's like, okay, you made me laugh. Cool. I clicked on something, but then it just doesn't continue to make me laugh.
Yeah.
And then you're not changing that feeling that I have of this is fun to make me want to buy it. Like, it's gotta, you gotta take me through some kind of funny story and just make it, it's not easy. That's not an easy thing to convert someone from like, ha ha ha, you were kind of clever, to, okay, this is a serious thing I gotta buy. Right. But a lot of people do it because they know that memes get attention. And yeah, they do. And yeah, you can make it work, but you better got to be a hell of a salesperson to make it happen.
Yeah.
And most people looking for help are not.
Yeah. So what do you see work? So you've got some messaging that you figured out that, let's say so it's not memes, it's like something that has appealed to that audience. It's appealing to the audience who's actually got the problem. It's people who've got money. You've set up your targeting right. You're reaching the right people. What's step two? Because you mentioned there's options, like it depends, right? So you could go through a cold sales page. You could go to an opt-in. You could go to a webinar. Like, how are you making that decision about what to do first?
This is all based on the pricing, the course, where I think the people are. If I think your audience is only on LinkedIn, we're going to run different approaches than if I think they're on Twitter or if I think they're on Instagram. It's a lot of it depends, because it's just things are so different. Like a lawyer trying to sell to other lawyers is very, very different than someone trying to sell movie contracts to people who want to create their first Netflix documentary straight out of film school, or someone trying to sell anxiety courses to women who just came out of, being pregnant, whatever. Like, very different audiences. and they got to be, approached differently, right? Like a lawyer might not be searching for your solution because it's a B2B thing. Like you got to approach them properly. Where ladies who are stressed out and anxious, they will look for things on Google or YouTube.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, are they searching for you? Do we need to show ourselves in front of them? Like, what kind of demographic is it? Can we be funny? Do we need to be very serious? I mean, there's still people, right? Like, you don't go corporate on them. But just what sort of messaging can we put out? Like, are they more attracted to make more money? Dentists are not. Dentists want to get their time back. So our messaging needs to be like, how do we make them look at people's teeth less and then give them more of what they need?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because the second you tell dentists like, hey, I'll get more people in those seats and more money, dentists like, yeah, I think I'm good. But the second you flip that, like, you're going to make this much more money, have this much more time, but still the business runs the same. All right, tell me more. Right? It's so different, man. Like, you can't give someone advice that's, broad, because then you'll get emails like I got today, like, hey, I've read all this advice from all these people, took the courses, read the books, created a course, tried selling it for 2 years. It's not happening. Can you help me? And I'm just like, why? To all of that? Because it's like 3 years of, I don't understand what you've been doing. I get people give advice, right? The most dangerous person to get advice from is the course seller that sold one course really well, and based on survivorship bias and being an outlier is now teaching you that, right? Yeah, that'd be like me trying to duplicate content strategies from Justin Welsh. Just because he is making $1 million on LinkedIn does not mean it's going to happen to me if I do anything of the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those are the most dangerous people, but yet they're usually the loudest. Because like, look at me, I sold 8 figures of one course. I'm like, have you sold any of any other courses for anyone else?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like, yeah, you've got it. One.
Yeah, what happens, I think, with a lot of people is they think that they understand it. They think that they've figured it out because it worked for them. And it's like, right, but the world's complicated. And the thing that worked for you may or may not work for these other people. And there are reasons why. Like this is why we do with our audience, we are very, very specific in who we'll take on as a client. Because we've got one model that we run, but that model only works for very specific people. And there's a whole bunch of people that you work with that our model just wouldn't work for. So we're like, you have to fill in this form, and then you have to have this call, and you have to have that call, and then we will check, are you a good fit? And if you're a good fit, fine, you're allowed to work with us. But there's all of these different things. So some of the things that you talk through, I want to kind of unpick. One of them is, what's the current awareness of the problem? Are the people problem aware? Are they solution aware? Like, what kind of stage are they at? You were saying about the women with the anxiety. They know what the problem is. They know they want something to solve it. They're looking for something at the moment. So they're like actively out there kind of seeking. Whereas the dentist might be like, he knows he doesn't have enough time, but he doesn't know that he needs something to help him with it. He's just like, oh, that just sucks being a dentist or whatever. From what you said, that's how it sounded.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people who are simply annoyed and don't know why they're annoyed.
Yeah.
They're not asking the right questions. Like, I don't know, you probably read this book, The Road Less Stupid.
Yeah, Keith Cunningham.
Yeah.
Right.
So that explains like the wrong questions, the tactical questions we usually ask ourselves when we're annoyed, when often it's not the right question. So with a person like the dentist, it's often helping them just uncover really quickly what the right question is and then explain to them why. And then they're hooked. Like, they know they're annoyed, but all the things they've tried, hiring a new person or doing this or working different hours, it's not solving the main problem, right? Because it's still, you got to get in there, you got to look at people's teeth, you got to deal with it doesn't solve their main thing. And it's kind of weird for a dentist to say, like, I'm annoyed by what I'm actually doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's a huge segment of people, especially in the business world, who are super annoyed and they don't know why. Like a course creator might be super, super annoyed that they're not selling courses. They think they have problems with marketing, with funnels, with whatever else, while their offer sucks.
Yeah.
But it's just that part, like, they're looking for technical solutions. Hey, John, can you build me a funnel? Hey, Tom, can you do the marketing? I'm like, bro, like, that's not your problem. Like, I can't help you when your offer sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not building offers. I'm doing marketing, but that's the problem, right? So when we look at different buckets of people we look after, you need to kind of understand, are they searching? Is it just something that's painful and they don't even know what to do about it? Are they just annoyed? If someone hurts their knee, they know their knee hurts. They might not be aware of why, or that they need to find a solution, right? It's just like my knee hurts or my lower back hurts.
Mm.
So there are like people in different spots. And that's why there's so much it depends on, the beginning of that audience finding is like, well, what stage are they at? Like, what are you trying to help them do? Will you help them fix that knee? Will you help them find a doctor? Will you help them just ease the pain? Like, what are we doing? Because it all really depends on that. Like, if you don't think that way, then what I find as an entry point might not match what you're actually offering. And then there's a big refund and conversion problem.
Yeah.
And then when people want to scale as well, and this happens a lot, people get lucky on YouTube. It's usually the channel. They get super lucky on YouTube. Like, hey, man, I've been posting 5 videos every week for the last year and a half. Got myself to high 5 figures. But now I post 5 more and nothing happens. I'm still at the same, like they plateaued on YouTube. I'm like, well, what worked? I don't know what worked. I just post videos. Huh. Well, what are you solving? We got to start from that part, because people who even made it a bit have no clue why things are working. Right. So then when they say like, oh, I just need to get more of an audience, I'm like, yeah, but you have no clue why you got this audience in the first place. So that's a big question to answer. And then we know where to go, right? Because just saying like, oh, more YouTube ads, maybe. I mean, if you're plateauing on YouTube, is more of the same going to work? I don't know. But then if we got to switch to a different platform, well, what are we switching to? Who are these people? Because you have no idea. You've ran all these people through. You have no clue why they're buying, who they are. You just know you post videos and you help people with exams or whatever. Like it happens a lot. So that person is a beginner as well. He's making money, but he has no clue why anything works. And then we got to go back to, this audience thing, right? And then you have like the 6-7 figure people, and it depends what's going on. But a lot of it is they are selling because of who they are, not of what they're actually selling. Right. So that's a different approach as well. We don't need people who are looking for this problem. We need people who are aware of this person, that they're selling something. We got to put their face in front of more of those people. They just don't know that Tony Robbins got a new course out. So that's a very different thing, because if you actually took a lot of the sales copy from the top sellers and put it on someone that's a nobody, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah. They just built a brand already, and that's like,
but again, that's a very different audience we're going after. Then we're going after more people, and not even necessarily that like you, but that like somebody like you. So if they're like Ty Lopez, they're probably not the brightest. They do spend some money. So we can probably show you as a better alternative to Ty. You know what I mean? Like, we don't sell your course. We sell you as a better alternative. And then automatically they'll buy things. Right. But that's, again, a different funnel, right? For someone that's more of a personality. Then we look for like, who else can we just take audiences from? You know what I mean? Like, again, it depends.
Okay. So let's work back through that a little bit then. So we've got, it depends in a lot of different ways. One of the things it depends on is your problem that you have got to the stage where you've been making some sales already, but you don't know why and you want to go to a different audience? Is the problem that you don't know what messaging it is that's actually going to connect with your audience? Like, why would somebody be interested in buying from you? Is it that your offer sucks? So what's some of the ways that people can go about figuring out which of these things it is? Like, what's some questions that people should be asking?
If you've been selling for 3 years and haven't sold any, your offer sucks. If you've sold a couple, then who did you sell them to? Is it people that know you or cold traffic? Because typically the people who sold some, it's because they know you from somewhere else and like you. That's again, that's bought because of trust, not because you have a good offer or good messaging. So we need to test that, because it's still in an unsure stage, right? We don't know. You haven't converted cold traffic. If you have an offer that has sold in group coaching, in different things, but you just haven't sold it online, well, that's offer's probably okay, right? Because you've sold it. This is just going to be a different entry point. So we just got to figure out the audience and the messaging, because we know it sells. Like your idea sells. You have one-on-one coaching, you have a service around it, you have group coaching. I mean, people are buying it. You just haven't showed it to these people, and so then it's that's just a simple thing, messaging an audience. It just depends on like where you are in your state. Like, who came up with this offer? Why are you selling this offer? Is it because it's working in some other part of your business and you just want to put it in?
Yeah.
Are people asking for a cheaper option? Sometimes there's a problem when nobody wants your course, but you just don't want to put in the time to do the service, and you want to sell it as a course.
You mean like people would want to buy it as coaching, or they'd want a one-to-one service,
right?
But you like, it would be cool if it was a course. I'd like that,
Yeah, it'd be cool to, not sell my time anymore.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's something we got to test, right? We got to make sure that this audience is sold on this idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because that's the things that so what we do, right, is we help people with funnels, but we only do it with people who've already got product market fit and an audience, because I think those two are way harder than building the funnels. Like, if you don't know how to build funnels, then that's still really hard, and that's why people come to us to help with it. But if you haven't got product market fit, that's difficult. Like, all right, what do people actually want? What is it that people will they actually spend money and then be delighted that they bought your course? Does it solve the problem? Are they like, great, that's exactly what I was after? And is there enough of people doing that? And then if you've got an audience to actually sell that to, once you've got those two, it gets a lot easier for the next stages, which is like, that's kind of why we focus in on that part of the market.
Yeah. So I love that market. When you got a big audience and you got product market fit, like all you're missing is that 10%. You got the 90%. And I always tell people, and it's kind of funny because I can, and you too, we can charge them much more because it's a much bigger problem to solve, incrementally. But I'm like, you'd eventually figure this out yourself, because you're like almost there, right? But we just, time is money to those people, thankfully. And we're just going to shorten that by, maybe 2-3 years, which is worth a lot in some cases. Yeah. But those people are already there. Like it's like the ball is going in. It's just maybe off by like a half an inch. It's going to go in anyways, probably. But you're that guy that just jumps up and taps it in, right?
Yeah.
Quickly. Yeah. So, with those people, but again, sometimes, they have that problem of just being too known. And that's the people we got to take audiences from other people to get to know them, because they've already exhausted a lot of spaces. So yeah, we can, up conversions and all that stuff, but there is a problem with just gaining more of an audience. Sometimes they're kind of niche, they're huge in their own space, but they're kind of niche, and getting them to be mainstream, that's that next step that like, that's difficult, because, moving them out of their comfort zone a little bit. Like I am really known in meditation, but I am not known maybe in just the self-help world.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's more of a branding issue then. We just got to make sure we get much more people into that front end, even though you're getting a lot already. But, after we move all the other levers, which you do with your company, the next step is just how do we expand this audience even more? Yeah. Because there's only so many tweaks you can do, right? At some point, it's going to become so incremental. We're like, yeah, okay, we moved this and tweaked this, and you got $2,000 more. When someone making like $300K a month is like 2,000 more, I mean, yeah, cool. Which would be insane to someone starting out, like, oh man, I got my first 2K. But to them, it's like, can you do better? Because it's, it doesn't move. So every group comes with its own problems. The group you're talking about is great because it's more of a layup, but then their next problem is usually pretty big too. Like how do we expand the audience? Yeah. How do I become bigger outside of my, because I'm in hip hop, right? A lot since I was younger. So to us, it was more like, it's easy to become known in your city or neighborhood. It's very hard to be known in like your region or the country. You know what I mean? So that's kind of their problem then. It's more of like that exponential, like we know everything works, but it's not always like in music, usually it's much easier to get people to like you that are not from your neighborhood. And that's why everyone, like every artist in hip hop, the homecoming is the biggest thing, right? Like when people actually like you back in your own neighborhood, that's when you think you made it.
Okay.
And
no,
because you usually hate it.
Why is it harder to get people to like you in your own neighborhood?
Because they all know you. You've been competing with all of them from day one.
Right.
So there's a lot of bias against you, right?
Okay.
So it's not until the entire country loves you, then you're kind of like, yeah, he's cool. He's cool. But it's just a similar problem. But it just sounds like in a different way. Like just because someone loves you in the meditation space does not give you much of an elbow room or to be loved in like a self-help or whatever Tony Robbins space is in. And like you're not Mind Valley.
Yeah.
You might be a huge thing in Bali, but you're not, like in the US, for example, nobody cares who you are.
Yeah.
And that's just a different beast to tackle, right?
Yeah.
Because we got to move you to, it's a branding issue. It's, stealing audiences issue, a lot of different things, but it is a problem at that stage.
So hopefully this is useful if you listen to this thinking like trying to figure out what stage you're at, what problem it is that you're trying to solve. Like I said, for us, if the problem that you've got is you're like, okay, I've got an audience, I've got courses, people are buying them, but I just like to sell more. Cool, we've got you. If you're coming in and like, I'm just getting started, or I've got an audience and they're not buying courses yet, or I've got these courses, they're not selling, maybe it's an offer issue, maybe it's a positioning or a messaging, or you've got to figure out what messaging is going to get you in at the front end. Or you've already got everything working great, and what you want to do is then go out into new audiences. That's a whole different issue. And so knowing which problem you're trying to solve is vital to make sure you go to the right person to solve it. Because a lot of people, they're like, they've got a hammer and everything looks like a nail. And it's like, but it's not. And I see so many people go to a service provider and be like, that person's like, I can definitely help. And it's like, can you? And they've got a system, but they don't know who the system works for. And they'll just sell it to you, whether it's right for you or not, which is why we're so picky with it. And then Tom's got all these different angles, which like, he knows things that are going to work for different people. But you've got to find someone who definitely understands what your problem is. And so hopefully this stuff Tom's talking through can help you figure out, well, which problem might it be that I have right now?
So basically, the way I kind of usually present this to people is think of yourself as you're running a race on your own through a jungle, right? And you're trying to get out to whatever side. And you have guides all over the jungle, waiting for you. And you're just like, okay, cool, I'm running now, right? Oh, there's a guide. And there's a guide. But from the top view, I'm like, this guy's running in the wrong direction. I mean, he's pretty fast. He's definitely getting help. There's bottles of water being handed out, but if he only knew, he's running straight to a mountain. Like there's nothing there, but that's, that's why that book is kind of helpful, because it helps you sometimes, when you step back, like, is this the actual problem? Because, a lot of people like, if I only got more traffic from Facebook, if I only, got more conversions here or more opt-ins, but in the end, is that the thing you want to do? Like, is that, is that really going to help? Or is it better offer or something higher priced? Or, I mean, there's just so many things. Like, what is the goal, right? Simple questions get you tactical answers, right? That's why most people wake up and be like, oh, I want to find a marketing guy. I want to find a funnel guy. And then it's like, but you don't make sense on the call. And then, usually, it's not, I mean, it is a large percentage of people. It is like, I don't know. Well, you do have all the applications and stuff on the calls. Like on our end, we also have a lot of things in place to turn people away. Like most people think a sales page is made to bring people in. For me, it's to get all the wrong people to go away. That's what I built the sales page and everything for, because I don't want to be on a call finding out someone's got, an idea and all this stuff and no audience. I'm like, well, you just wasted 30 minutes of my time, even if I hang up now. Yeah, it's hard, man. Like the beginners are hard.
Yeah, if you're starting out and it feels hard, that's because it's hard.
But it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard. But again, someone that's proven the offer in different ways, then I understand, right? If you've already moved through, the service, the one-on-one, the group coaching, like you've moved people through all these stages, like, well, you are kind of just missing, like a lower end product for people who can't afford all those things yet. And hopefully if they buy it and like it, you can just drive them into your higher end offerings,
Yeah.
But if you're just, and I've had these, thankfully not now because my sales page is better, but I had these like 7 years ago. Some lady would message me with some dumb idea. And I'm like, why in the world are we even starting this? And she's like, oh, I traveled to Bali and I just don't want to go back to work in the UK. So can you help me make this happen? Because I need some kind of income, and it's like, that's the complete wrong reason to make a course. Like, you're not helping these people. You're not an expert. You just want to make money. Go get a job. There's remote jobs,
You are entitled to the life you want, but you're not entitled to people's money for not solving their problem. Like, people don't have to give you stuff just because you want to make money from it. It's like, who's the audience? What's their problem? What are you going to do to solve it? How is it better than what everybody else is doing? What evidence have you got for that? Like, to actually back up that you can really help them more than other people. Okay, now you can maybe start to think about this. Have you done it one-on-one with people? Have you done it in a group setting and it worked and it was reliable and you knew which people it worked for and you knew which people it didn't work for? It's like, all right, now you're getting closer. Or you've got a big audience and they're like, you're giving away information for free and they're like, I wish you had a course. You're like, okay, you've got demand. Like, those places, it really fits. It's like the next stage.
Yeah, it is, but there's a huge problem and I've actually just ran across this recently, right? Of people just giving out too much free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It really limits what they can do. Like, I've seen it with a business, right? Like, when they try to change the offer, no. Change pricing, no. Like, everyone's like, dude, you've given free things away for 10 years. Why would I buy anything else from you? I've just recently seen this, giving too much stuff away for free can destroy your ability to sell later on. You can give stuff away for free. You can, you do it strategically, but being this, like, I'm always available, here's my free stuff, like, it will really limit your scaling. I think this guy, organically, he was able to get it up to about 120K.
Okay.
But after 10 years,
right,
everything else he tried didn't work. And I looked at it and he was not a good fit for me because I was like, dude, you completely messed up your audience building. Like, it will take us at least 2 years to, like, have them unlearn all of the behaviors.
You train them in. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the first time I've seen that, but yeah, it's the real thing. Like, more likely what's happening is that you're just doing live stream selling and then you can't, when you don't do live streams, nothing happens. So you got yourself a nice job selling courses. That's a problem we can solve. But I see that as, like, the next thing, right? Like, a lot of people, like, they try to make this into, like, a passive, automatic thing, but then they're stuck on calls and webinars every single week because now they don't show up, no money comes in, and that kind of sucks too. We had quite a few of those. They usually get a little higher. They'll get to like 300-400K until they start burning out.
Yeah, I joined a mastermind that was for people running group coaching programs. And we have group coaching as one of our services. We do it done for you, do group coaching. And I was like, cool, these guys are all doing like a few million a year doing group coaching. I'm like, they've been there. They know how to do it. I can go learn from them. And what I learned was their lives really sucked because they were creating all these events and they were doing all these webinars all the time and creating live content every day. And they had to be on stage. And if they weren't on stage selling, then it didn't happen. I'm like, this sounds awful.
Horrible.
Yeah. Like,
bad.
I stopped going at all because I'm like, the only thing I'm going to pick up here is I'm going to get taken running straight into that mountain. It's like, this is what I'm trying to build at all. It's like, I'd much rather have lower revenue and a better business and then gradually figure out how to improve it some other way. But
and this is one of the things when you asked before, like, which path do we take? And I'm like, well, which path do you want?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the paths are easier, once someone tells me, like, I've done this path and I hate it, well, we're not going to take that path anymore then, buddy. Let's just move you over to this one. But people who are like, well, what if I'm like, so I had this one person, like, he argued with me a little bit. So I was like, fine. He's like, I'm seeing people make a lot of money selling courses when they attach an hour of their own coaching calls to it.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I told him, like, oh, okay, all right. So what we've done is, we got the audiences, everything set up. I was like, okay, we're going to launch you out the gate, buddy. You ready? We got him 80 hours worth of coaching calls in the first week.
Yeah.
Week 2, he calls me and tells me to stop. After arguing with me that this is a good idea. I was like, cool.
Yeah, somebody else's coaching time, potentially, if it works out economically.
No, this was
time. Like, yes. You insane? Like, yeah, don't do that.
Well, what they've done is they heard that, you can sell your course for $297 or $697 selling your own hour. But they also told me they want to scale. So I was like, there's a disconnect, right, between those two. Well, yeah, 1 week taught them a really nice lesson. Yeah, definitely got some money out of it. But he hated his life, man.
Yeah.
80 hours of calls. Can you imagine?
I'd rather not. Yeah. I used to have a couple of coaching calls a month personally. And I was just like, oh man, I don't want to do this anymore. And I know that's so privileged to be in that position, but I'm like, yeah, that's not what I want my role to be anymore.
But again, like when you're starting out, if you don't pick the right path, it's super easy to make a little bit of money, build this golden cage around yourself, and be stuck. Like if you're making okay money, but you just like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate doing live things. I hate doing the live calls. I hate this. And then often the choices you make at that moment are really bad for the business because then you're making it for the wrong reasons. Like instead of thinking, how do I change the business model? You just, I'm going to stop this, or I'm going to do this, or I'll get this happen, or I'll just put someone else in the coaching calls. And you quickly realize the audience is like, no, you promised your calls. And then everyone leaves. There's so many things that happen.
Yeah.
So, like strategy over tactics, I think every single day, man, like that's where you should focus your time. If you're stuck at any point in the course business, at any moment, like what's the next best move? Not the tactic, it's not the sales page usually that's going to solve all your problems. It's something else.
Yeah. Look at the fundamentals. Man, this was amazing. Thanks so much, Tom. Hopefully, as you're listening to this, you've got a lot out of this and it's starting to open up your eyes to like what might be the right step to be focusing on next. And also can help you see a few steps ahead. Be like, oh, when I get there, I might run into this problem as well. Tom, if people heard this and they're like, I don't fit into data-driven marketing's thing, they can't help me, but maybe you can. Where do they go to try and figure out, if you might be the right fit to apply to work with you guys?
There are two different entry points to work with us, right? The one, if you already feel like we can actually help, and you listening to this, you probably can kind of feel, if you're in that site, then wemarketonlinecourses.com is the best way to go and like fill out the stuff, and then we'll go through everything else. But if you just simply need to get some ideas, and I share them weekly in the newsletter, which get really good responses because we share stuff which most people don't share because it doesn't make us money. Like I will tell you not to work with us for a lot of different reasons. And that's smartbrandmarketing.com/newsletter. And then we just go over different ways I think and approaches, and you can kind of figure out, is your strategy the right one, based on, what you read. And working with us could be, a tactical step. But often it's not what you need when you're just like, when you're stuck. Like it's not hire Tom or John. It's like, well, there's something maybe fundamentally that I need to change about my business first. And then I go with them and they do whatever they got to do. Right. So I think that's a good point for a lot of people too, because they're stuck and they come to the tactical solution when it's not always the best one first.
All right. So that's wemarketonlinecourses.com if you think you need help right now from what Tom said. And if you are not sure and you just want to kind of scope it out and you want some useful information, smartbrandmarketing.com/newsletter.
You got it.
If you found the interview useful and you want to get future episodes, please subscribe wherever you listened or go to datadrivenmarketing.co/podcast. And thanks so much for listening today. And Tom, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, it's been great.